This is the award-winning car talk show in real time, your weekly go-to, all things automotive place. Howdy, along with Mike out of this world, Mars, there. King Conrad DeLong, there. Jeff Zekin over there. He's off camera. But trust me, when you can see him in your mind and you're going to go, that is one sexy man. And I know you're saying that.
And next weekend, Jeff will be out at the NHRA event with us signing autographs.
That's right, because we want more Jeff.
We want more Jeff, and he is a rock star.
Yeah, among rock stars, yeah, absolutely. And howdy, I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us on this Saturday. It's been kind of a different show. You know, every week is kind of a different show.
Because we never want it to be the same. We always want to struggle through different things each week.
You want to be routine and do the same thing every week.
You know, you got to think, if you make the same mistake over and over again, you're an idiot. So we just make different mistakes every weekend.
And we're always an idiot. So there is that part of it as well. Well, somebody that's not an idiot, and we found this story that was, I thought, really interesting. Of course, you know, everything right now is all about electric. All of the manufacturers, including manufacturers you've never heard of, are going to have an electric offering beginning, well, it's already started, but I mean,
it's really starting to pick up.
Especially next year. It's going to be a huge rush of all, you're going to start seeing ads for all of these electric vehicles that you've never even heard of, these manufacturers.
Well, Hummer's supposed to do the intro of the new Hummer EV first game of the World Series.
There you go. So it's been in the works now for quite some time. But, you know, owning a plug-in electric vehicle today, it's really no secret. And the reason that the manufacturers are going toward electric is because, in essence, it will save you thousands of dollars in the long run. So joining us right now from Consumer Reports is a fellow by the name of Chris Harto, and he's the Senior Policy Analyst for Consumer Reports. And Chris, it's great to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Hey, great to be here, guys.
So you're a Senior Policy Analyst, and you know, I know that you crunch numbers a lot, and this really isn't surprising, the numbers that you've come up with, but it is, in essence, surprising to find out how much money a person can save in the long run. But, you know, the caveat by owning an electric vehicle is the purchase price. But, you know, I drove, I think it was a Hyundai not that long ago, that was an electric vehicle that was in the 30s. So, you know, when you get into that kind of price range, now we're talking about making it available for a lot of people, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, the prices are coming down on a lot of the electric vehicles. They are still more expensive to buy up front, but you're going to save a ton of money on your maintenance cost, on your fuel cost, and those savings add up over time to where most EV drivers today are going to save money in the long run.
So, Chris, how did you get to these figures that you're talking about here? Because you're talking somewhere between $6,000 to $10,000 in the long run, and I guess that you're really talking about vehicle ownership over, 200,000 miles in some cases.
Yeah. So we looked at two different ownership periods. We looked at a first owner, somebody who's going to own that car for about 7 years. And then over the full lifetime of the vehicle, that first owner is still going to save money. They're going to save a few $1,000s in most of the comparisons we did. But a lot of those savings are going to come at the back end of the ownership period and accrue to that second or third owner of the car. But pretty much everyone who owns that EV is going to save money over a comparable.
So when you're talking about the second or third owner, you're talking about the car being sold to somebody else. But when you get into 200,000 miles, are you not talking about battery replacement at that point?
In some of the early EVs, there were some battery issues, but with the new current versions of the EVs, the batteries are lasting really long. We're not sure. We'll still have to see, but but right now it's looking like battery replacement's going to be something like an engine replacement or a transmission replacement. The frequent, it might happen at, 150,000 miles or 300,000 miles that you need to replace it. But
we just don't know yet.
We just don't quite know yet. But it's trending in the direction of those batteries lasting a really long time.
So, and a lot of that's driven by the battery technology that's coming out now. You got to remember some of the early EVs were lead acid batteries that you had to replace every 2 or 3 years. Now you're talking about all the NiCads and the higher technology batteries, which means a higher expense when it comes time to replace them. But the purpose of the new technology of the batteries is to make the battery pack smaller and lighter.
So
absolutely.
So, Chris, did you factor in, or have you looked at the anxiety level here? And I bring this up because
Don suffers from bad range anxiety.
Range anxiety is huge with me because when I received the car, and I get to drive these cars a week at a time, it was half charged. Well, the onboard computer in these things said, okay, well, you can go another 150 miles. Well, my commute every day to work is 60 miles. Well, that's almost half of that 150. And, I don't want to be stranded on the side of the dang road. So, the charging anxiety is also another problem. So if I'm going to drive, let's say, from Houston to Dallas, there's 250 miles. Well, that's going to put me at the edge of the battery charge. Did you guys put any of that into this formula that you're using?
So a little bit, yes. We looked at what people normally drive, and we found that in general, a lot of these new electric vehicles have range about between 200 to 250 miles. 250 miles seems about where the average new EV is falling in terms of range. Right. A typical driver, they're going to need 6 stops a year at a charging station to do all of their driving. 6
stops a year? That's all?
Yeah. Yeah, with the same car, you'd do 40 stops at a gas station. If you have home charging, you can charge it overnight at home. You're only going to have to go find a charger 6 times a year.
Okay. Yeah.
Usually for that longer trip that you're going to take between cities or on vacation. And you're going to have to plan that trip a little more. You're going to have to look and see where there are superchargers along the way that you can stop and charge up while you get a sandwich or for lunch.
And there's more and more of those, what you're calling superchargers, being built out there because as the EV industry grows, the infrastructure to support it has to grow. And then, I believe if what you're talking about is the supercharger, those are the 440 charging stations?
Correct, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So we just recently talked to one of our guests. He's on a 5-day trip in a Prius around Texas. And we talked about some of the planning, like you're talking about, how he had to kind of plan it out. We're going to talk to him in a week or two to see how it actually worked out, because Texas is pretty scattered out. Like Don said, Houston to Dallas is 250 miles. People don't think anything about running to Dallas.
Yeah, and he was talking about finding some country club out there in West Texas that he could stop and get charged at because there wasn't any other place to get charged at without just going. He was looking for 220 charging.
Yeah. It can be a small challenge when you're looking to go some places that are more off the grid and further from bigger cities or major highways.
Chris, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to ask you about your thoughts about what was surprising in this study. So stay with us, okay?
Sure.
All right, very good. We'll be right back.
When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the In Real Time Car Show, and give us that shot again, Jeff. Down here below. Can you see down there? We have a rare appearance. Well, it's not going to be rare anymore, but, we talk about the Sues. Well, she's here, and we made her a little, actually, she made herself a little nest down there.
This is Don's life partner, his dog.
Yes, she is my life partner. So she's just kind of hanging out with us this morning, and I thought that you'd appreciate it, as well as Candy Thacker usually watches the show, who's fighting breast cancer up in Kansas. We say hello to you and let you know that our thoughts and prayers are with you and hope things are going well. Our guest right now is Chris Harto, and Chris is the Senior Policy Analyst over at Consumer Reports. So, Chris, we're talking about ownership of EVs, and I wanted to ask you about what you found surprising in doing the research in the cost of owning an EV over a period of time.
Absolutely. One of the things that really jumped out at me is so we looked at 4 different comparisons. We looked at the best-selling car in the class, the top rated by Consumer Reports, the most efficient, and also we tried to find a car that matched the performance of each EV. So a car that had the same 0 to 60 acceleration. It was those performance-matched cars that really showed the best value for electric vehicles. Something that's, Tesla and a few others have started to point out to consumers that these vehicles are really fun to drive. But when you really look what it costs to get the same performance that you're going to get out of an EV, out of a regular gas-powered car, the savings are enormous.
So, Chris, looking at the lifetime savings here, best-selling vehicles, they seem to kind of go hand in hand, but I've never heard of a Clarity PHEV, which is explain what a Clarity is.
A Clarity is Honda's plug-in hybrid. It's similar to a Honda Accord. It's a very similar body style, similar vehicle.
Okay.
It just is a plug-in hybrid.
But it's more regionally sold. We don't sell very many of them in Houston. I believe they're very popular out on the West Coast, but they're really not here in the South Texas.
Yeah, they're supposedly available anywhere in the country if you want it, but Honda isn't actively trying to sell you one most places.
Well, no surprise here. The top of your list in both categories is the Tesla Model 3. You obviously really like that, and it actually shone through as being the most efficient and worthy of the price that you pay.
Yeah, absolutely. The Model 3 has proven to be a great deal for consumers who want a sporty sports sedan.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think I have a story here about that, is the fact that Tesla knows that they've got a lot of competition, and they just recently announced a price cut on that particular vehicle.
I believe they cut the Model S. I'm not sure. Maybe they've cut the Model 3 as well.
Yeah. So I know that when we hammer this home to our viewers and our listeners, since we broadcast on all these different platforms, the fact that the electrics are coming, and through your research that, they're coming, and it's going to be everybody that we've never even heard of before ready to hit the market with all sorts of different EV choices that a consumer is going to have to make if they're actually going to shop for an EV. What would you tell somebody that has never owned an EV where to shop? I mean, we're probably talking about 24 different manufacturers across the globe.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would tell consumers to do their research, rely on sites like Consumer Reports that will test. We buy and test all of these vehicles. The image behind me is our test track out in Connecticut. We'll buy these vehicles. We'll put them through dozens and dozens of rigorous tests and be able to tell you which ones are a good vehicle to purchase and which ones maybe you wait a bit. Maybe this one isn't quite ready for prime time. So I think consumers are going to need to rely on sites like Consumer Reports to get some more information before they go out and spend $40,000 or even $50,000 on a new car from a manufacturer that they're not familiar with.
Well, and that's going to be the key, because there are going to be so many new manufacturers or new brands out there selling EVs that people have never heard of. We know the Hondas, we know the Toyotas, the GMs, the Fords, the Teslas and such. But now you're going to see this range of pickup truck with Revion and a few others that are going to be out there. So depending on somebody like Consumer Reports to analyze all of those different manufacturers and give us some data is going to be very, very important.
So, Chris, let me ask you, whenever you were looking at this, and obviously you're looking at maintenance costs and stuff, does the support mechanism, I mean, like we're in Texas, there are Tesla places, but they don't have the dealerships per se here in Texas. So if I bought one of these, like a Rivian, if I'm in Houston and I'm a Rivian, did you take into account what it's going to take to get that vehicle serviced if it breaks when you were factoring in all this?
So with the maintenance cost, what we did was we have survey data from a few 100,000 members who tell us about everything that's gone wrong with their car in the past 12 months. They tell us how much they've driven their car. They tell us how much it cost them to fix their car. In that sample, we had over 10,000 electric vehicles owned by Consumer Reports members. And so our data for this analysis is based on what real consumers are spending to fix their cars. And we found that owners of fully battery electric and plug-in hybrids were both saving about 50% on their repair and maintenance costs per year. But we didn't look at where they're servicing their cars or
no. Well, I was kind of wondering about factoring in the cost. Like I'm 110 miles from the Tesla dealer. If I owned that vehicle, was there a cost of getting it to that repair facility or not? Figured in. Yeah. I'm just curious because we're so scattered out here in Texas.
Yeah, we didn't look at that specifically. I know Tesla has a number of mobile service providers, so that they'll come to you and fix your car. Each automaker is going to be a little bit different. If you go with a Ford or the Volkswagen's coming in strong with the new ID4 that'll be on the market soon. The Toyota RAV4 Prime looks really awesome. Like if you buy from an existing OEM, you're gonna they're be able to service your car. Like I said, Tesla's figuring that out.
Yeah, Tesla is just kind of using them as an example of one of them that's not an OEM, because there are a lot of them like Rivian, and I believe there's a couple of others that we were talking about earlier. But anyway,
and with your price comparison, what charging station are you using in that price comparison? A 110 or a 220?
That's a good question. We assumed all charging would be done on a 220. Most of the charging would be done on a 220. We did actually factor in that you would do some charging at a public charging station. And so we did factor in that higher cost. It's going to cost you a little bit more when you're charging on the road. We didn't factor in the cost of buying and installing that charger. That'll run you anywhere from $1,000, $1,500 to purchase and install that station. We did a recent study where we bought a bunch of these chargers and looked at them and looked at the cost and how they worked and how well they worked and made some recommendations to consumers. Those stations run about between $300 and $700 to install. If you already have a 240 plug available, you add another about $750 to install a new plug in your house. So there's some cost there, but there's also a lot of utilities will offer incentives or even a free charger if you sign up for their EV rates. We used average electricity rates, so a lot of utilities have special rates that you can save more on your electric bill with your electric car if you charge overnight or at specific times. So every consumer is going to have to look at the math for themselves. But overall, you should still save a good chunk of change even after buying that charger.
Well, Chris, it's a pleasure to talk to you. We appreciate all the information. And had a great report, and it's available at Consumer Reports. Chris Harto, we thank you again, and hopefully we will talk to you again when you have another update for us.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Chris Harto, he is the Senior Policy Analyst with Consumer Reports.
Good information.
Hey, your voice can be heard right here on our show. Just shoot us an email. The address is info@inwheeltime.com. We've got a little splash and go ready for you right here. Conrad's This Week in Auto History is coming up, and the stories making Auto News Headlines. Break now. We'll be right back.
Texas Truck Works is your go-to truck customizer. From mild to wild lift kits, custom wheels, and steering and handling enhancements to the best personal and commercial wraps, Texas Truck Works delivers. Let Texas Truck Works founder Scott Stevens help you get the most out of your truck or Jeep. Texas Truck Works has decades of customizing experience, including power adders and complete engine swaps. Let the Texas Truck Works team design an upgrade plan that fits your budget. Get truck attitude today at TexasTruckWorks.com. Advance Auto Parts and CarQuest present the Boobs Rock Powder Puff Race. Saturday night, October 17th at Houston Motorsports Park. Gates open at 5. The green flag waves at 6. Wear a mask. Social distancing and sanitizer rules. Enjoy $1 hot dogs and $1 beer. $5 discount ticket info online at NASCARHouston.com. Saturday night, October 17th. Gates at 5. Racing at 6. Houston Motorsports Park. All car classes including the Boobs Rock Powder Puff Race, supporting breast cancer awareness. It's the last race of the season. Boobs Rock. Don't miss it.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time Car Show on this Saturday. We record this show for podcasts throughout the week, and of course, we are streaming right now on InWheelTime.com, Facebook, and on YouTube. All right, time now for This Week in Auto History. And Conrad has a little show and tell.
You know, we're always looking for interesting facts that happened this week through the history of cars. So this week was the week that Cadillac produced its first vehicle back in 1902.
That's it?
That might not be the original one. Tom Mix, if everybody remembers from silent Western movies, he had this very famous Cord that he drove for years. The problem was he also was killed in that Cord in an automobile accident in Arizona. Relatively minor damage, but back in those days, there wasn't seatbelts and stuff.
That's the car?
And then the car has been rebuilt and sold at the Bonhams auction a couple of years ago. Wow. So, quite a history to it. This week in automotive history, the Chevrolet El Camino was first released in 1959. I'm a huge El Camino fan, and I just think they're a beautiful car.
That one matches your shirt.
That one matches my shirt. And then also this week in 1965, Oldsmobile released the Tornado. Front-wheel drive, 425 cubic inch V8 with...
No, that's not the 65, is it?
No, it's a 66. They released it in 65 as a 66. 385 horsepower. It had a flat floor. There was no transmission hump in the floor inside of that. Hideaway headlights.
Man, that was the news. No hump.
Right. And then in 1978, Lee Iacocca was terminated from Ford, who went on to really save Chrysler. In 1992 on this day, thousands of people across the eastern United States saw this flash in the sky, and it ended up being... Okay, you can hold it now, Jeff. And it ended up being a meteorite that came across the East Coast and struck the back of that car you saw there, the Chevy Malibu, in Peekskill, New York. Now, I go to that because I grew up very near Peekskill, but I wasn't there in 1992. But that's the meteorite on the ground right there underneath it. So
missed it by that much. The Fickle Finger of Fate award goes to that guy there. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
What was that from?
Rowan and Martin.
Laughing.
The Fickle Finger of Fate award.
In 1993, a decade after it was first introduced, the 1 millionth Toyota Camry rolled off the assembly line.
That's not it.
British fighter Andy Green broke the sound barrier in Black Rock, Nevada, with this car.
Yeah, that is some really big exhaust on that one.
No, those are the intakes for the jet engines. Appropriately, the week he broke the sound barrier on land was 50 years plus 1 day to when Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in the air in 1947. Wow. So kind of an odd parody of how those two times came together, and I'm pretty sure it was coordinated to do that.
He missed it by a day.
Missed it by a day. Came this close.
That just
missed it by that much.
Yeah, but he was still going 764 miles an hour.
You know, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not going to try any of that stuff. I'm all just fine.
So that's this week in automotive history.
Well, that was good. I like the show and tell. Okay, so time now for stories making automotive news headlines this week. The revived Mustang Mach-1 will start at, drum roll please, $52,915, including shipping, when it hits dealerships next spring.
And they're sold out.
Ford revealed pricing Wednesday as it opened order banks for the limited run performance pony car. Ford has not yet said how many will be produced. The Mach-1 is being added to the Mustang lineup for the first time since 2004. I didn't know that. As Ford discontinues the Shelby 350 and the Bullet badges. Did you know that?
And they kind of come and go over time, and that's why they're bringing the Mach-1 back. But that's going to sell out.
The vehicle will include a number of parts from other models, including the 5-liter V8 found in the Bullet, the 6-speed manual transmission from the GT350, and the rear axle cooling system from the GT500. Mach-1's engine, however, has been specifically calibrated to produce 480 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque, not Newton meters. The 6-speed manual transmission comes standard, although Ford will offer an optional 10-speed automatic. And the way the automatics are today, I think I might have to take that.
Oh, yeah.
With the paddle shifters and the way that they shift. Yeah.
They got it right. Ford's going to donate a limited edition 2021 Bronco to St. Jude's for auction as a fundraiser, one of the early ones.
Nice.
That's going to bring a lot of money.
Tesla cut the price of its Model S long-range sedan in the U.S. to $69,420 a cut. Is Tesla's second this week for the high-end sedan, following a 4% cut to $71,990 on Tuesday. Huh, all right. Well, you just keep on bringing it down. So I was mistaken. It wasn't the Model 3, it was the Model S.
And then General Motors has announced their Cruise division, which is the autonomous vehicles, is going to be testing unmanned self-driving cars in San Francisco.
That's a perfect place to test those.
In the end of this year.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they're going to have the poop app on it, so it shows where the poop is.
App?
Yeah, they have an app in San Francisco that tells you where the poop is on the street. People go by and they geotag the poop on the street.
Doesn't Nancy Pelosi live there?
Like I said, the poop on the street.
I kind of set you up for that. Did you like it?
Boing.
Hyundai Motor Company set to expand a number of recalled Kona EVs over battery cell thermal risks.
Thermal events.
Which
Phil Woodward, you remember thermal events, don't you?
Yes. The plan to recall about 51,000 vehicles. Go to safercar.gov to find out if yours is listed on there for any car.
And get a fire extinguisher at Harbor Freight.
Pretty much. LG Chem, which supplies batteries for Kona EVs, said last week faulty battery cells were not the cause of fires in Kona EVs, and the exact cause had not been determined. Now that...
I'd say that, too.
Exactly. Yeah, forget the gasoline fire.
Yeah.
You know,
I think Takata said that as well when the airbags were killing people.
That's exactly right. All right, that's it for this segment of the In Wheel Time Car Show. Segment number 3 comes 3 or 4?
3.
4.
4. 3.
Anyway, we're going to continue with the show right after this.
4.